Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Happy St Andrew's Day, by the way. I noted in the press today that one of our political leaders was saying that St Andrew is a perfect embodiment of the warm welcome and kindness which we extend to all who come to Scotland, which I think is a very appropriate message, and it applies to here as well. We extend that warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for supporting us and for turning out this evening. So, the first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the last lecture meeting. Simon, can I invite you?
Good evening. Minutes of the meeting of the Society of Antiquaries of Scotland, held at 6 p.m. in the auditorium, National Museum, Scotland, on Monday, 9th November 2015, David Caldwell, President of the Society, in the chair. The minutes of the last meeting were read and approved. The following communication was read. The Fourth Bridge, The World Heritage Journey, by Dr. Miles Oglethorpe. The same communication was read at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, 10th November 2015, in the Regent Building Lecture Theatre, Regent Walk, Aberdeen. Jackson Armstrong in the chair.
Thanks. Can I sign that as a correct record? Yeah, thanks. Okay, thanks, Simon. So this is the moment where I have to announce that the ballots for the elections for new fellows, council members, honorary fellows are closed. Now, we need two scrutineers to have a look, just like that. Not a fix on us. Thank you very much. So the next item is the Treasurer's annual report. I regret to say that our Treasurer is unable to be with us this evening. But he has left me a report, which I'm just going to read out verbatim, and we'll be happy to take questions or comments on it once I've finished reading. As Treasurer of the Society, I am ultimately responsible, along with the other trustees, for the proper management of the Society's financial affairs. Many of you will recall that the Society completed a review of internal governance in 2014. One of the recommendations to come out of that process was the creation of a Finance Committee. This new committee met for the first time in February of this year, with terms of reference from Council to scrutinise and monitor the finances of the Society. This new arrangement allows a group of trustees to take particular interest in the finances of the Society, sharing this responsibility with the Treasurer, who is the chair of the committee. What has not changed is the fact that day-to-day management of the Society's finances relies on the hard work of members of staff. I would therefore like to record the trustees' thanks, in particular to the Director, Simon Gilmore, and Assistant Treasurer, Jan Patterson, for their efforts throughout the past year. I would also like to acknowledge the continuing assistance we have received from the Society's external financial advisors. Our investment managers, Investec, who are responsible for the daily management of the Society's investments, and our auditors, Henderson Logie, who undertake the annual independent examination of our accounts and provide advice on other financial matters throughout the year. Jandy Stevenson of Henderson Logie, who has advised the Society since 2008, is retiring and has recently handed over this role to our colleague Jamie Davidson. We thank Jandy for her long-running support and look forward to working with Jamie. It's appropriate to note here that we will be required to move from an independent examination of our accounts to a full audit if, as predicted, our turnover for the current financial year exceeds 500,000. We have every confidence that Henderson Logie will guide us through this process. You've all been sent a copy of the abbreviated accounts with your papers. I will highlight what I believe to be the key points to note in the accounts and in doing so, I hope to answer many of the questions you may have. There will be an opportunity at the end of this presentation. The format of these accounts should be familiar to fellows that have attended previous AGMs. The abbreviated accounts contain 4 columns. The first 2 columns, unrestricted and restricted funds for 2015, are combined in the third column to give total figures for 2015. Unrestricted funds can be applied to any of the Society's charitable purposes. They have been divided by the trustees into a general fund available for any purpose and a designated fund that is used to generate income for Society grants. Restricted funds can only be used by the Society for the purpose specified by the donor, and in the abbreviated accounts include the substantial grant from Historic Scotland for the DLitt 2015 project. The fourth and final column contains comparative figures for 2014. You'll note that this is titled Restated at the head of the column. This reflects the fact that an accounting error was identified after the presentation of the accounts at last year's AGM. This affected only one line in the abbreviated accounts, income for the fellowship post-funding, where an internal transfer of funds was incorrectly identified as income. As a result, the Society's income was overstated for the year 2013-14 by 13,447. The net effect of the correction of this error is to reduce the balance of funds brought forward into 2014-15 from 936,118 to 922,671, as shown in the bottom line of the restated 2014 figures. Moving on to the Society's accounts for the year to 31st May 2015, the trustees agreed a budget for the Society at the beginning of the financial year with the basic aim of funding the activities for the year from our current income, i.e. a balanced income for our recurrent activities, only drawing on the Society's reserves for specific agreed projects. This was set out in the business plan for 2014-15. Looking at overall totals for income and expenditure in the third column, you will note that we recorded a deficit of 61,757 for the year, which, after taking account of unrealised gains in the value of our investments, amounts to a net reduction of 24,845 in the funds available to the Society. The deficit reflects both planned expenditure during the year, as agreed by Council, and unplanned costs that we have had to cover. With the exception of income relating to books, where some publication dates and therefore income has been delayed, budgeted income was achieved or even exceeded during the year, and the deficit reflects increased expenditure. The deficit can largely be accounted for by 3 items of expenditure, which together amount to 51,200. And they are, firstly, the largest single source was the planned funding of the Fellowship and Development Officer post, which accounted for 35,400. This was the first full year of the post, and the much lower expenditure for 2013-14 reflects only a few months' costs. The longer-term benefits to the Society arising from this post will be described by the Director in his presentation. Secondly, almost 11,000 of the extra expenditure relates to planned expenditure on a new membership database for the Society. The Client Relations Management, CRM, I think it appears as in abbreviated accounts. We had been notified that the software provider would no longer support our existing system, and therefore a replacement was needed. In November 2014, the Director presented Council with options for replacing the current membership database, concluding that the preferred option was a solution from advanced NFP, not-for-profit, called Member Strategy at a cost of $17,600. This was agreed and a negotiated contract signed. During the implementation process, it became increasingly clear that despite efforts of both society staff and advanced NFP, the software would not allow subscription invoicing in the manner the society required. This only became apparent during training on the new system. The director immediately moved to cancel the contract, looking to ensure the least outlay possible for the society. In his report to council, it was noted that there would inevitably be resources written off. The CRM expenditure laid out in accounts represents this write-off. This loss is unfortunate, but the trustees consider that both society staff and the software supplier acted in good faith and should not be held responsible for the loss. Further investigation of the various software systems available in light of this specific invoicing issue identified only one capable of the invoicing required by the society, called Tribe by TSG, which is the most expensive option originally considered and the direct replacement for the current system. The Society's Council has agreed to purchase this system, which will be installed in 2016 at a cost of £22,610. This is a necessary and unavoidable investment. And the third item of expenditure Stephen wanted to draw attention to was a further $4,800 spent on unplanned legal fees relating to the review of governance. Whilst it was undoubtedly necessary to seek legal advice in governance matters affecting the fundamental laws of the society, the trustees recognised that this could and should have been part of the planned budget for the governance review. This was an exceptional cost and will not be part of recurrent expenditure in future years. Recognising the collective impact of these exceptional items on the balance sheet, I am confident that the Society is able to fund its present level of recurrent expenditure. However, the Society has a current strategic plan that anticipates significant expansion of its activities on behalf of the Fellowship. This is the main justification for the current investment in the Fellowship and Development Officer post. We have recognised that we need to increase and diversify our sources of funding if we are to expand the activities of the Society. Are there any indications that we're making progress towards this goal? Last year, I highlighted the importance of subscription income to the Society and noted the rise of restricted project funding in the Society's budget. Looking at the situation 1 year on, I can report that previously declining income from subscriptions has almost stabilised, as has the number of fellows, but is yet to actually increase. However, we are in a stronger position than this suggests. Agreed increases in subscriptions do not affect the 2014-15 accounts, as they were only applied from July this year onwards. They will be reflected in the results for the current year, and I can report that subscription income is already higher than for 2014-15. The numbers of applications for fellowship is also rising, with 169 applications in the current ballot, and this will result in the first substantial net rise in number of fellows for 9 years. Investment in fellowship and development is beginning to bear fruit, but this is a long-term process, and it is too early yet to be confident about the outcome. Long-term planning is an important task for the trustees, and as has been indicated in your AGM paperwork, a draft of the new strategic plan is now available. You have an opportunity to comment on the draft plan over the next 2 months, and I encourage you all to do so. One particular issue that the Finance Committee will be examining in the coming year is the Society's reserves policy. This is a trustee statement that justifies the size and purpose of its financial investments. Again, your thoughts on this topic will be welcome. And that's the end of Stephen's report. we'll be happy to take questions or comments and do our best to answer them. Yes. No, was that not a hand as well? No, just a microphone.
Not such. Be good, move on.
I only intend to give you another few seconds now. Yes.
Hold on, Margaret. Sorry, can you just wait for the microphone because we can't pick it up otherwise. Sorry.
Thanks. Just a question about expenditure in general. I probably ought to know this already, but does the Society support the attendance of students, postgraduate students, for example, at conferences and so on? Do we? I don't see an entry of that kind in the statement, and I just wonder if we do that, and if it has been considered by the Society before as a justified expenditure.
Yes, that's a very welcome question. I think we're quite proud of the fact that we managed to support 10 students to participate in the European Archaeological Association conference in Glasgow this year. We've already had a short presentation at one of our meetings by one of those students, and we look forward to hearing more. And I, for one, would be quite happy to see that type of activity expanded.
And perhaps we could have it as a line in the expenditure, just so fellows knew that was.
Sorry, Margaret. We need the microphone.
Thanks. I'm just suggesting that perhaps, if appropriate, we might have a line in the in this annual statement to show that, because I think that is something that fellows would be very pleased to see as a separate item.
Yes, thank you, indeed. Yeah. Anybody else? Anything else? No? Okay. Can I ask if we could have approval for Stephen's report? Yes, thank you, Roger. And a seconder? Yes, thank you, David. I'd now like to invite our director to read his report. Simon.
Good evening, everyone. I'll try and keep this as brief as possible so I don't keep you from the drinks at the end. Or indeed, before that, the fantastic presentation on the new body that's just been created this year, Historic Environment Scotland. Fellows and guests, let me add my warm welcome to that of the President on the St Andrew's Day anniversary meeting, back in the National Museum, which of course we helped to found. Or should that be St Andy's Day? Probably not, since in this new age of collaboration and cross-disciplinary support, we should be acknowledging the work of the entire Davis Cup team. I will, here we go, talk briefly this evening about some of the things the Society has been doing over the last year. And I want to start with a note on the strategic plan of the Society that I indicated was being developed by Council trustees in my report at the last anniversary meeting. As suggested then, Council and staff wanted to ensure that fellows had a say in this process, and tonight we have put online the draft strategic plan for 2016 to 2021 and invite you to comment on it. We have included some questions at the end of the plan and indeed online, simply to help stimulate your thinking, and would welcome any responses before the end of January next year. The intention is to implement the new strategic plan from the 1st of June next year, our new financial year. So please do let us know your views on how to attain our vision for the Society. Or indeed, if you have a different vision, let us know that as well. When I compile this report, I am always very proud, not just of the quantity of things the Society undertakes, but the high standards it sets itself in undertaking them. Indeed, the sheer variety of work is what makes this position as director so exciting and rewarding. So I'd like to take the opportunity here to thank the staff of the Society for their efforts over the previous year. And I will highlight only a very few of their activities this evening, but I must say a special thank you to Vina Oberlander, who will unfortunately be leaving us soon after this anniversary meeting for pastures new. I highlight this not only to say thanks to Vina, but also to explain that the investment in fellowship and development is starting to bear fruit, with real increased income, greater numbers of fellows to sustain the Society long term, including a greater emphasis on the younger generation, and, I hope you will agree, a more fellow-centric organisation generally. As the Treasurer has already stated, this is a long-term plan, but you can help. Vina has stressed during her time here that the Society is a charity, striving to do good things in the heritage sector, and it needs your support to continue doing that. The sponsorship and donations we are starting to see come in are, we hope, just the beginning. Such gestures make a massive difference to what the Society can do, how it can support emerging research and extend its influence. We would like to ask fellows to consider leaving a legacy to the Society. By leaving the Society a gift in your will, you could help provide vital support for emerging research, engaging publications, and innovative outreach work. The gift will cost nothing in your lifetime, but will make a lasting contribution to the future study and interpretation of Scotland's past. With adequate resources, we can continue to deliver quality activity across the heritage sector, and we'd like you to help us direct those resources in future by commenting on the draft strategic plan I mentioned earlier. Now, this graph I pull up every year, and it will, I promise, begin to see improvement, starting from this anniversary meeting, which is just off the thing here. With net growth in fellows predicted as a result of our excellent intake being voted on tonight. In that list of fellows, new fellows, you had 169 proposed new fellows in that list, over 50 of whom were in the under 26 or student category. And those are the ones we know about. We know that there are many others who have been applying on that list. We don't know which fellowship type they're actually applying for yet. Fellows provide not only real sustainable income, but they are a source of and represent the Society's key strength, its independence, that which allows us to speak out in support of Scotland's past, drive imaginative and novel projects like DLitt and SCARF, and lead the way in digital publication once again. Speaking of SCARF, we have secured funding from Historic Environment Scotland to assess its impact and support the development of local or regional research frameworks or agendas across Scotland. There is also a greater push to involve students from across Scotland and beyond in using and updating the SCARF in their peer-reviewed work. We are especially keen to involve museums more in SCARF and highlight and increase the benefits a research framework can bring to museums' collections. Emma O'Riordan has been reprising her previous role in SCARF and already produced 2 interesting reports on its use by the heritage community, one on website statistics and the other in a more nuanced usage survey, the headline results of which can be seen here, and both reports will be available on the SCARF website. But with 96% of users saying that they would recommend SCARF and 86% of users trusting the content, we have a strong base on which to build further developments over the next couple of years. Continued increased use as measured through web statistics, this graph here, tells its own story. While the figure of £120,000 of funding raised through SCARF is likely to be a very conservative figure, because we kind of got the question wrong in the survey, but we know that it's at least £120,000. And when combined with the £60,000 estimate of monthly value, this free resource is obviously paying dividends for the sector. And I just returned from a very stimulating couple of days at the end of last week in Kilmartin, where the museum is actively engaging communities of interest and place alike in creating a more local regional framework for Argyll and Bute. The Society has offered to help in this endeavour, since it is through such local engagement that I see the continued development of SCARF. And similarly, although on a different trajectory, while the Neolithic panel report on SCARF is the second most accessed report, these figures here, pick out your favourite, see where it lies. Where am I? Yes, the voluntary group of individuals and organisations that I told you about last year as well are probably the first out of the blocks with regard to taking SCARF to the next step. These volunteers are interested in developing a major programme of research to help better understand the Neolithic of Scotland, and have now expanded the project to include Ireland and the Isle of Man, not only creating their own Boyne to Brodgar logo, but there's also an imminent paper publishing the research agenda of the project, and there's a real momentum towards putting in major funding bids, hopefully, in the coming year. DLitt 2015, unfortunately, comes to an end very soon, and we'd like to extend a warm thank you from the Society and Archaeology Scotland to everyone who helped make it such a success. We are not resting on these laurels, however, and are hoping that we can maintain the excellent momentum created by Jeff, Julianne and Rebecca into the year of history, heritage and archaeology, which may seem a long way off, but we should all be preparing now for 2017 events. I'd welcome thoughts from anyone on how the Society can best capitalise on the opportunity presented by this particular year of. And in the meantime, I'd also like to say thank you specifically to the DLitt team, who have worked their socks off with very little resource to produce something quite special. And it certainly celebrated Scottish archaeology, but it actually went much further than that and created what is actually an incredible brand that everyone can get behind. And as part of DLitt, the 2015 Rind Lectures followed a slightly different format than usual this year, and all the lectures and discussion panels are now online free to view. And I can also announce that tonight that AOC Archaeology Group have agreed or offered to sponsor the Rind Lectures in both 2016 and 2017. And we're very grateful to them for this vital support towards an iconic lecture series. I must quickly also congratulate staff and authors on the continued production of our series of high-quality books, available tonight at bargain anniversary meeting prices. Please support your society by taking advantage of these offers during the drinks reception upstairs after proceedings. Almost, I think, all the volumes that we have copies of will be available, not just the 3 you saw downstairs. And I can also reveal that we expect to be publishing no fewer than 6 more books in quick succession over the next year, with almost as many in the pipeline for the year after. And I can also say that PSES 2014 has been put online as of today. You should be able to access it using your fellows' passwords, and the hard copy will be winging its way to you very soon. Since we are between the Chancellor's spending review statement and the Scottish Finance Secretary's own budget statement in December, I cannot touch on the topic of advocacy, which the Society does very well, I have to say, without mentioning the continued pressure on public finance. This will have real impacts on museums and heritage services across the country, and the Society will continue to advocate to decision makers the value of these services to both local people and the economy. Please don't hesitate to let us know when threats appear in your area. That's in your local area or in your area of interest. Our independence is clearly our greatest strength, and that independence comes from our fellowship. I noted last year our support for and involvement in the development and delivery of the Historic Environment Strategy for Scotland, Our Place in Time. And now we also lend our support to Scotland's Archaeology Strategy. The Society was involved in its development and will obviously be involved in helping to deliver on the aspirations it contains. Both help to articulate the value of heritage to Scotland and provide a basis upon which to further advance our message. The Archaeology Strategy was launched by the Cabinet Secretary Fiona Hislop at the European Association of Archaeologists Conference in Glasgow in September, and the Society supported 10 students to attend and present papers or posters at that international conference. And some of you will have heard Martin Conlon, one of the students we supported, speaking eloquently in advance of the last lecture, Miles Oglethorpe's lecture on the Forth Bridge, about how important society's support for early career researchers is, and I can only wholeheartedly agree. We hope to have more of those students who we supported speak very, very briefly at the beginning of relevant lectures in due course. And I finish on this slide simply to thank all those who have collaborated with us and supported us over the past year. And we really can't do all this without both this and your support. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, Simon. Do we have any questions or comments, please? Right, that's well, let's do take that's mine. Could I just have a proposer for adoption of that, please? Yes, thank you, George. And a seconder? Yes, thank you. Margaret. Right, okay, so it comes round to the President's address, and I don't particularly want to go over all the same ground as Simon has covered, all of which I'm totally and enthusiastically in agreement with. It's been a great honour to have been elected your president. I've now held the post for exactly a year, and I've enjoyed it, actually, I have to say. And so I should, if that doesn't sound warped. One of the great parts of it is actually meeting you people and other fellows elsewhere and other people who have an interest in what we stand for and what we want to do. And I'll be very happy to talk to others of you in the course of this meeting and ones in the future. As you probably all realise, I'm a bit of a shy and retiring sort of person, so you may have to attract my attention. I'm very pleased that I managed to get out and meet some of our Australian fellows in Melbourne almost a year ago. We have, I think, something like 26 fellows in Australia who meet once a year in Melbourne. And as a result of representations from them, we've been delighted to agree that their leader, unofficial leader, James Donaldson, should be appointed secretary out in Australia to deal with their affairs on our behalf. I've also been to meet fellows closer to home. I was very pleased to get an invite to go and attend one of the meetings of our Aberdeen and North East Scotland section under their present chairman, Jackson Armstrong. And that was a very good experience indeed to see what strength and what interest there is up there. We're increasingly trying to expand activities of the Society on your behalf and not make it appear that everything is actually located in Scotland, in Edinburgh, And we're pleased that we have managed to have other events in Inverness and Dundee, which have been very successful. And we look forward to returning to those venues and others as well. We have, of course, had a good range of lecture meetings throughout the year. I'm not going to remind you in detail of what they all were, but and I would be reluctant to pick out any in particular. I found them all fascinating and rewarding, and a good range, and I hope you will agree with that, that we try our best to cover a whole breadth of subjects that ought to be of interest to you. Simon mentioned our advocacy role and how important it is for us to go out there and make representations, encourage other people, comment, and try and make improvements in things happening elsewhere. You may also recall that those of you who attended the lecture some time ago on the Bronze Age martyry in the English Channel, a lecture which took place not long after the Charlie Hebdo atrocity in Paris, that we saw fit as a society spontaneously to express our support for our colleagues and all the people of France. And here we are, not all that long after another atrocity in Paris, which I'm sure is all very much in our minds. I trust that under normal circumstances, our advocacy role, our role of speaking up will not be about such drastic events, but we certainly ought to be prepared to support our colleagues in all ways, wherever they happen to be. Not only did we have the series of lecture meetings, we also, of course, had our Archaeological Research in Progress meeting, an Ethnology at the Crossroads conference, where all our leading lights in that field, including many leading scholars from elsewhere, turned up to look at ways ahead for ethnology in Scotland. Very much, may I say, in a post-Sandy Fenton world. It was a very interesting mix of presentations and panel discussions, which I think worked very well. And I was quite intrigued as somebody on the edge of the subject, not directly involved in it, to see how our colleagues dealt with this. We then had a very similar format, as Simon mentioned, for the Rhines this year, looking at British archaeology, its progress and demands, a title that reflected an 1858 publication by Henry Rind. And again, it appeared to me and several other people that this was a very great success as a way forward. And I expect that Council may well look at doing similar formats in the future. We are very proud of the interest we have taken in our younger fellows and in finding ways to encourage more to join up. We've already mentioned the bursaries for attending EAA conference, and our colleagues up in the Aberdeen and North East section have been doing some splendid work as well. They now encourage students from the Aberdeen University Archaeology Society to attend the beginning and end of their lectures, where they can engage with them and where the students actually provide coffee and cakes and manage to make a bit of money as well. But it obviously increases the sort of social aspect of the meetings they have in Aberdeen. And frankly, I'm quite jealous of them that they've managed to achieve this. There's something whirring around in my head at the moment as to how we might try and do something similar. Jackson Armstrong and his colleagues up there have also engaged with students at Robert Gordon University, using their skills in events management to help them plan excursions. And Jackson and I found ourselves participating in a course on computer game design at the North East Scotland College to help engage ideas about how they could develop Flodden or other things like that in their gaming. It was a very interesting and fun opportunity, and I'd like to think that we did encourage some of the students to take more of an interest in the Scottish past. We're also aware that we have a lot of fellows in North America, and you may have noticed that we were publicising a proposed fellows event that was to take place at Tampa University in January, something that Ian Gregg, who's based down there, one of our fellows, was very keen to promote. Through no fault of Ian's or indeed the Society's, that event has had to be postponed or cancelled. But we very much have it in mind that we will engage with fellows in North American future as to what a way forward might be. We have been very pleased to acknowledge and receive sponsorship in the course of the year, particularly from Sir Angus Grossart, who has supported our series of lectures, and of course AOC Archaeology for the support of the Rhind Lectures series. And I'm aware that several other donations have been made. This is a good time to say that no time is too inconvenient or no sum too small to offer us to support the activities of the Society. And we'd be very pleased to look at dedicating such gifts and offers to particular worthwhile activities, whatever you have in mind. I'm very grateful to fellow council members for the support in the last year, our new streamlined council, and for their work on the various new committees. Though I say it myself, I think the new organisation is working and is allowing us to give more attention to the things that really matter. We have, of course, lost some councillors as they've stepped down, including Anne McSween, one of our vice presidents and chair of our staffing committee, and also Ian Fraser, who was the collections curator for Arcams, or now HES. George Dalgleish has also replaced Fraser Hunter as the ex officio council member on behalf of the National Museums, and we've lost Finlay McEachran, who for long was the president of the North East section, who stood down in favour of Jackson Armstrong. And we also lost Jane Ryder during the year, a great loss to us, but as you will hear later on, to the considerable benefit of another organisation. The notes for this meeting say that I'm going to launch the strategic plan for 2016-2021. So consider it launched. I have no intentions of giving you a blow-by-blow account of what is in it. What we very much hope is that you will look at it and you will think about it and you will engage with us. What we've put out is not intended to be engraved on stone. It's there to help you think about what the best way forward is for all of us, for all the society. There's only one thing that I think I want to draw your attention to at this stage, because I suspect that it is something that many of you will want to give a fair amount of attention to. And that is the consideration that Council has given to the future of the proceedings. It's our view that we should move to having as many fellows take the proceedings in electronic form as possible, probably by 2018. There are several reasons for this. There are two in particular, which I think are quite important. The first is a general one, if you like, that this is the way of the world, this is the way that publishing is going, the way that people do work, that increasingly everybody will be relying on electronic communications. The other obvious things to say is that printing the proceedings at present costs us a great deal of money, over 30,000 a year. That is money which I personally think could largely be spent on what I think is one of our major aims, which is to encourage more research activity in Scotland. And that would be, to me, a very good reason why we would wish to move in that direction. So there is a letter which I'm going to invite Simon to read after I finish giving this presentation. But I just wanted to finish up with just a little reflection, if you like, which perhaps to some extent is personal. As a kid growing up in Scotland, I was never in any serious doubt from a very early age that I wanted to be an archaeologist. And indeed, I went to university, I studied archaeology, and I became an archaeologist. As often as not over the years, when people have asked me what I do, that is what I say. I'm an archaeologist. I continued at university, and I took a doctorate in history, in fact. And over the years, a lot of people have seen me as a curator. And I have spent a lot of time working with colleagues in related disciplines. Ethnologists, I work a lot with geologists at the moment, with art historians, with historians, all sorts of different people who have something to contribute. Collectors as well. And indeed, I think that collecting is in fact a very important strand in the society that we need to look at again. But now I'm president of this august society, and I'm been thinking again about what I am or what I should be representing. And I'm very clear that I'm an antiquary. I actually checked my dictionary to see what an antiquary was the other day, and at least the one that came most conveniently to hand said that an antiquary is a student or collector of antiques or antiquities. Quite so, but I think surely it's an awful lot more. And it's something that being an antiquary is something that ought to bind all of us together, whatever our particular interest is. And I would like to suggest to you that being an antiquary is something that we should be much more lively about, something we should be very proud of, and something that should trip off our tongues a lot more easily, rather than the specializations that we've ascribed to in the past. It's a noble business being an antiquary. If you're younger than me, it's cool, I think, is the way. I'll probably be told that that's out of date as well, but hi, I do my best. One of the things which we very much look forward to doing in 2016 is having a conference along with our colleagues down at Abbotsford to celebrate the anniversary of the publication of Sir Walter Scott's book on the antiquary. Sir Walter Scott, of course, was one of our early fellows. And it's a book well worth looking at again to get some flavour of how much fun, how serious it can be to be an antiquary. So I feel I'm an antiquary now. I hope that all of you can feel that way too. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions or comments, be happy to deal with them.
While commending your drive for brevity, I think you could have added a warmer vote of thanks to the retiring vice presidents and the council members and vice presidents. And I think that fellows would wish to join in thanking them.
That, I think, is a very fair point. And I apologise for being so remiss. So I'm very happy to invite you to, with a show of hands, to celebrate the contribution that has been made by our retiring council members. So,
I think Edwina had a question here.
Thank you. The point I would like to make is one that I'm sure other people in the room will sympathise with, and that is, while I applaud the idea of putting the proceedings online, I do think you must remember that there will be many members of the society who will not be able to make use of them. People who are either blind or have poor eyesight for one reason, and there are other reasons. So I think that in going online, you must always have some of the publications available in print form, because I think many people would be cut off from the society very substantially if they couldn't see the records in print. There are other reasons for preferring to have it in print, but I think bearing in mind people with poor eyesight and people who are old enough not to use computers. There are many, many of the fellows who are not here today, as well as those who are here today, for whom this is a closed book, or a semi-closed book anyway, and who would never choose to use that method of communication. I think that should be borne in mind. I'm not suggesting you abandon it, but I do think you need to think twice before you go down that route too solidly. Thank you.
yes, thank you for that comment. And yes, we are very aware that we mustn't, under any circumstances, take away the ability for any of our fellows or anybody else to access our proceedings. There's a lot of work and many considerations to be taken into account before we change the present situation. Assuming we do move forward to encourage more use of electronic media, it just seemed to me important that we should give you plenty of opportunity to bring up points like that so we can make sure that we can deal with them. We're not rushing into a decision right now.
Nick Holroyd. I would just like to amplify the idea of having the proceedings available in different media. I recently gave away my collection of bound versions of the proceedings, and I was very happy to do so, but I am conscious that others would greatly value having bound copies. It also strikes me that if we are trying to increase membership, which not only involves getting new members but retaining old ones, we must be sensitive to people's desire, and some people do take a very real pleasure in their collection of bound volumes. one possibility which strikes me is to see who wants them and who doesn't. And I think that could easily be done. It wouldn't be a question of charging extra to those who wish to have the bound volume. Rather, people could be offered an alternative. So they could be said, you pay your subscription of, let's say, £100, and you get the bound volume. But if you decide to opt out of getting the bound volume, you could have an alternative gift or promotional item which might appeal to people. For example, one could have a brooch or conceivably a tie, perhaps a tartan tie or some such thing. And that would have the twofold benefit. It would not only benefit those who wish to switch media or retain media, but it would also be a very valuable way into promoting the society with such things as ties or brooches. So that's my tentative suggestion.
Thank you for that. Happy to consider all of those points and whichever other ones that you have. You don't have to make them in this meeting. This is just the start of what I hope will be a vigorous and engagement, and we'll look forward to hearing much more from all of you on the subject and other matters in our strategic plan. Well, perhaps if there's no other immediate comments, I could invite Simon to read a short letter from one of our fellows, Leslie Morgan, who made a proposal at the last anniversary meeting. Simon?
I'll just read it from here if that's okay. And I will, it's a whole A4 sheet, so I will abridge it. I was most grateful and offer my sincerest thanks to Council. Oh, by the way, Leslie Morgan requested that we specifically read this out at the AGM, which, of course, we were very happy to do since he made that proposal at the last AGM. I am most grateful and offer my sincerest thanks to Council for their deliberations, and whilst they could not support my proposition for reasons recorded in the presidential newsletter, nevertheless, I am delighted that Council have agreed to present those fellows with certificate and listing their names in the Society's newsletter once they have achieved 65 years fellowship. May I give my warmest thanks to those fellows who supported my proposition, which I very much appreciate, and were it not for our efforts in this regard, I feel that we might take some credit for Council's loyalty to our longest-serving fellows, for I am quite sure that this item was not included in the original agenda. I cannot help but wonder, had the meeting realised that I was a Sassenach Yorkshireman, whether I would have had as much support as I did. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. And finally, may I give my sincerest thanks to our director, Dr. Simon, for presenting my report on this occasion and for having had an operation. He's unable to attend today, and his apologies for absence has been recorded. Leslie Morgan.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Right. Well, I have the results here of the ballots from the scrutineers, Mary Davis and Jonathan Wadsworth. And they are the ballot for election of office bearers and councillors, 51 for, 3 against. Ballot for election of honorary fellows, 49 for, 1 against. And ballot for election of fellows, 11 for and 1 against. So I can declare that all of those people on your ballot forms are duly elected. Are any of our you fellows here tonight? Would you like to stand up and show yourself? Well, good. Congratulations, all of you, and thank you very much indeed for welcoming them. I hope that I'll be able to meet all of you after the meeting. I'd like to see all of you after this official part of the meeting. 169 new fellows then, and as far as we're aware, at least 50 younger fellows included in that. about which we're very pleased. So, you'll notice from your papers that included in that, we welcome back Stephen Carter being re-elected as Treasurer, and Council members Anna Groundwater and Tom Dawson, congratulated on their re-election, and a particularly warm welcome for the newly elected Council members, Dr. Sharon Webb, Dr. Don McLaren, and co-opted members who stood for election, Dr. Adeline Wilson and Barry Ferguson. And also a warm welcome for the ex officio elected chairman of the Aberdeen and North East section of the Society, Dr. Jackson Armstrong. Now, during the last year, the National Museums of Scotland ex officio representative was Dr. Fraser Hunter, and he stood down to be replaced by George Dalgleish, keeper of Scottish history and archaeology, at least until very recently, and we've already welcomed him onto council. Fraser, who's been one of the treasures of the National Museums over the years, and indeed has been involved in releasing from the earth many of the treasures we now take for granted in our understanding of the Iron Age and the Roman period and in exhibitions. Fraser has been on council since 2005, and we thought that given this has been a remarkable long period of time and a very fruitful one for the Society, that we should express our gratitude to him by presenting him with a small gift. Have we got Fraser here tonight? No.
His wife Tanya is here, so perhaps if she would like to come down and take this for him. That'd be
Tanya, would you like to do that for us? Thank you very much. Anyway, small expression of gratitude to Fraser. Thank you.
very, very busy at the moment with the new Celts exhibition, hence why he's not here tonight.
And now on to any other competent business. Yes, yeah, all right, yeah. I should also, of course, extend a warm welcome to our two new honorary fellows, Professor Ted Cowan, formerly of Glasgow University, and Dr. Jenny Wormold.